All right, great. So let's just jump in and welcome. I'm Professor Guerra Pujol, and welcome to BUL 3130, which is part of that secondary core. It's your introduction to business law, or as the class is called now, legal and ethical environment of business. So with that in mind, let's just jump in and I'm just gonna, because this is an orientation class, I'm just going to introduce you to the main parts of the syllabus, main highlights of the course, so that you can here what we're doing is just managing expectations. So you know what the course is about, you know how the course is designed, and you know what you'll need to do. So and here's what we'll do. We'll do a screen share. Give me 1 second here. Let me just pull up the homepage of the course so I can just show you how to access the syllabus if you haven't done so already, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. See, I'm having trouble. Okay, there we go. All right, let's go back into, let's go into the screen share here, and just so you can see the syllabus, follow it along with me. All right, here we go. Great. So we're on the homepage of the course. And the reason why I want to show you the homepage is that every Monday, I will be updating the homepage of the course. I'll give you, I don't want to spam your email box with a bunch of announcements and stuff like that. If there's a deadline, I'll let you know. But generally speaking, at the beginning of each week, I'll post the announcements for that week. And those announcements will contain everything you need to know, whether we're meeting that week or not, whether we're meeting in person or in Zoom, if there are any assignments open, and in this case, all I have is I've posted the survey results, which I wanted to get your class feedback, before publishing the syllabus. And now that we have the feedback, you can go over the results if you wish. But what I'll do is, just to save time, I'll just go directly into the syllabus and then show you how, what the course is about and how I incorporated the feedback that I received from the graded survey from the class preferences. So the syllabus we're going to be focusing on here, you can see I have a picture of Mark Zuckerberg because a majority of the students did vote for The Social Network as if we're going to use a movie or a theme of the course. So I have here a few, the first half of this cover page, I have something, one of the things I don't like about Facebook and Instagram is, I don't know about you, but I don't like the like button, And number two, if you're going to have a like button, why are you taking away my choice to have an unlike button and, a dislike button? You know what I mean? YouTube, for example, has a like and a dislike, thumbs up, thumbs down, as does Netflix, for example. But, Facebook is kind of interesting. Even Twitter has the heart, but you don't have so it's something we'll talk about, the freedom a company has to give you options or take options away. I also have here from the movie The Social Network is some scenes from that movie. I'm going to be focusing heavily on the beginning part of the movie. The beginning part of the movie is the most historically accurate, where it depicts Zuckerberg's role in creating an ostensibly illegal website called FaceMash. And with FaceMash, that part of the movie is fairly, historically accurate, in that the Jesse Eisenberg voiceover, as he is portraying Mark Zuckerberg hacking, the computer databases of the Harvard, residential services, computer databases. That's word for word from Mark Zuckerberg's own blog. So we'll talk a lot about FaceMash and the legal implications of invasion of privacy as a way of introducing you some of the big ideas that affect all business firms. And hacking is definitely a real big problem that affects all business firms, even all the way up to Harvard University. So I have a couple of things too. The movie JFK, which is considered Oliver Stone's one of a masterpiece, features something called the Zapruder film, and that raises some interesting intellectual issues. When you take a movie on your camera or you take a picture on your camera, you know, Mr. Zapruder back in 1963, he didn't have, there were no iPhones back then, but he had a Bell and Howell movie projection camera. And so he recorded what's considered the most famous movie of all time, which is the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, but who owns the legal rights to something like that? So, we're all taking selfies on our phone. We're all taking pictures, and so that has interesting legal issues. And then I do, Tiger King came in as a distant runner-up. And now Tiger King seems kind of an unusual, and it is an odd bunch of individuals, beginning with the rivalry between, Carole Baskin and, Joe Exotic. But it turns out, and it's something I will discuss somewhat in the class, it turns out, there is a special relationship between animals, living, non-human animals, and the law. And so looking at the way the law treats animals is fascinating in and of itself. And so so I'll say a few things about, when the time is appropriate, about Joe Exotic's legal battles with Carole Baskin and the criminal conspiracy case against Joe Exotic, for which he is now in jail, serving a 20+ year sentence. All right. So what I've done here is, just to get people excited, I want to show you how popular culture interacts with the law and ethics as well. So I put on page 2 a description of the course where I kind of break down what we'll be talking about. And, I'll just tell you, you can read it for yourself, but in plain English, what we're going to be talking about we have 5 labs. So we're going to be talking about 5 aspects of law and ethics. First, we're going to talk about what are the main sources of law. That's we're going to do that in our lab number 1. Lab number 2, and what I've done, by the way, to keep everything clean and simple, I've created one module for each of our labs. And so for lab number 1, which is technically module B, because module A is the module corresponding to this orientation class. But for module B, lab number 1, we're going to identify what are the main sources of law. What is law? When we look at the legal environment, we're going to see that it's multifaceted. There are different levels of law. So we'll begin by just identifying the main areas of law. Then lab number 2, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a very special aspect of the legal and ethical environment of business in the United States, and in Florida, which is something called the common law. The common law originates in England during the Middle Ages. Actually, the common law has roots, intellectual roots, going back to Roman law, to ancient times. But we'll look at the common law, and the common law, module C, lab number 2, provides the background rules, the default rules that apply to all business firms, small and large. You could be Amazon, Jeff Bezos, Apple, Tim Cook, Zuckerberg, Meta, or Facebook, or you could be, a sole proprietor, or maybe, a landscape gardener, or, selling your own home goods on Etsy or eBay. The common law provides the default rules of property rights, contracts, and what lawyers call torts, or accidental injuries and intentional harms. So we'll look at those 3 main areas of the common law because they, like I say, provide the rules of the business game. Then in our lab number 3, which will correspond to module D, I like to call that the law of ideas, or what lawyers refer to as intellectual property rights. You actually can use the law in order to own your own ideas under certain circumstances, or the expression of your ideas. you know? And this is really, really important, as we're going to learn. Once we've established the main sources of law, the main areas of law, and the main, common law tradition that applies to all business firms, we're going to see, I think the single most important area of business law is going to be intellectual property rights, or the law of ideas. And as it happens, the movie The Social Network, one of the main themes of that movie, at least the second part of the movie, is the allegation that Mark Zuckerberg stole the idea for the Facebook, as it was called back then. So we're going to look at that. How do you prove that someone stole your idea? So that'll be our third lab. Our fourth lab, which will be Module E, I call that, we're going to look at civil and criminal cases. Normally, when people think about, business law or the law generally, you might be thinking of, jury trials. You might be thinking of Perry Mason, or Law and Order, or if you're old school like me, Dragnet. Or any number of Legally Blonde, a very, very popular movie, or My Cousin Vinny, or To Kill a Mockingbird, which is a classic example. But today, in reality, very few cases do go to trial, do get in front of a jury. So we're going to look at why it is, what it is that civil and criminal cases have in common, and why it is that most of these cases either get plea bargained if they're criminal, or they get settled out of court if they're civil. And when I say most, I mean over 98%, or about 98% of all civil disputes and criminal cases never go to a jury. So that is a remarkable and compelling statistic that has to be addressed and explained. Why it is that most business firms generally don't like taking a case all the way to the jury. So we'll look at that strategic aspect of litigation, of the trial, our trial system. Finally, our last lab, which corresponds to Module F, is we'll look at corporate governance. And corporate governance simply refers to how businesses make decisions, and how does ethics factor into that decision-making process. So there's a lot of things going on right now. There's something called environmental, social, and governance, hugely controversial and therefore fascinating. What are the obligations, if any, of business firms to, society, if you will. So we'll take a look at that. And then we'll compare and contrast that with the old school Adam Smith, Milton Friedman, that, businesses are there to pursue profit. And so we'll see, we'll present the two major theories of business ethics, the two major theories of corporate governance, and I'll let you decide, what you think you prefer. Finally, there will be one last module, and that will be a module for the final project. I'll say more about that when I explain the assignments in this class. So this is just a little description of the course. We're going to end up covering quite a lot, quite a lot of ground in each of these modules in progression. All right, our class schedule. By the way, here I have a screenshot of the ELO chess ranking algorithm that was used when Zuckerberg created the FaceMash. And we'll talk about this. This is very interesting. Algorithms and scientific laws and scientific knowledge, generally speaking, cannot be subject to ownership, and so, everybody is free to use the chess ranking algorithm. You know what I mean? The United States Tennis Association, for example, uses it when deciding how to seed players, at the US Open, for example. Of course, the chess world uses, the chess ranking algorithm to determine, people's status in the chess world, whether you're a grandmaster, a master, what is your level of proficiency in chess. So I'll say more about that. It's a really fascinating thing when we look at the FaceMash, when we look at sources of law. But the class schedule is, now I'm going to tell you what I have here this is by the book. this is a so-called real class, you know? And so what this means is we have 5 labs plus an orientation, and the labs have to be in person and attendance is required. So orientation, I'm allowed to do a Zoom. This is just an orientation class, but the labs have to be in person. Now, that said, I did notice when I looked at the survey results, I posted them. I didn't really look at them, but when I looked at them closely today after the holiday weekend, I realized it's very, very close. It's basically 452 students would prefer in person, 425 students would prefer Zoom. It's basically a 51-49% split. So what I'm going to do, and then also I will tell you, just like I think last week, President Biden extended for 90 days the public health emergency that President Trump declared when the COVID wave hit the United States back in 2020. So given that there is, you know, although that may not feel like it, there is technically a public health emergency going on. And given that almost half the class voted for a Zoom option, here's what I'm going to do. You know, attendance is required. That's non-negotiable. That's the format of this course. But what I'm going to do on the Tuesdays in which we don't meet, I'll go ahead and do an optional Zoom. So, you know, if you prefer in person, you can always go. This will be the in-person schedule. If you, however, prefer a Zoom, and I know half the class would prefer that option, or you have health, you know, concerns as well, then, you know, that's fine as well. Nobody's going to be penalized. So what I will do is I'm going to update this schedule to reflect both the in-person option and the Zoom option on those Tuesdays in which we are not meeting in person. So just to give you an idea, our first official lab is January 31st. So the first Zoom would be February 7th, you know, the following Tuesday, every other Tuesday. So I'll go ahead and update that class schedule, and we'll just build in flexibility into this schedule component, so you can choose the you know, the modality that that works better for you. Also, you can switch between Zoom and in person. You can do any section you want as well. I know for a fact that some of you, for example, signed up for maybe section, you know, 2 because none of the other sections were available. But really, you know, you're working during section 2, so you can go to any other section you want, or the Zoom. So I'll go ahead, given that it was so close, I'll go ahead and update this schedule to reflect that flexibility. So, you know, I'll give you my word that I'll do that before the end of the week. So throw that out there. Class modules, basically, like I was saying when I was describing the course on page 2, we have 5 labs plus an orientation and a final. So boom, there will be 1 module for each of our classes, plus the final project module. So here is basically in words what I was describing at the beginning of this orientation class. So I won't repeat it, but you can see these are the modules. These are the themes of each module, and the on the left side and the right side is a more detailed description of what we'll be talking about. And then in each of the modules, what I'll do is the reason why I'm having a module is because each module will have a number of assignments, and I'll give you a bunch of supplementary material that will connect what you're learning in the class and in the textbook with what's going on with the founding of Facebook, for example. What's going on, I may say a few words about Tiger King, which is so fascinating. You know, how we treat animals is something of an indication of, you know, the morality of our society, you know, and also the JFK, which continues to be a huge conspiracy theories going on with, you know, who, you know, what's going on with JFK. Why won't the government release all of the documents that they have, you know, 60 years after the president was assassinated, you know? So we'll take a look at, you know, how do you prove a conspiracy, you know, in law versus just alleging a conspiracy theory on the internet, for example. So, you know, fascinating stuff. So we'll do all of that, you know, in each of these modules where it becomes relevant. just to make the class interesting. All right. Oh, by the way, I did have this screenshot of the Harvard Honor Code, just so you can take a look at it, compare notes with the UCF Creed. And you can see what's really interesting. One of the interesting aspects of the movie, The Social Network, is not only, the first part of the movie where Zuckerberg creates an illegal website called FaceMash by hacking Harvard's university's computers. But the other part of the movie is really interesting, where the Winklevoss twins allege that Zuckerberg violated the honor code when he stole their idea for a social media platform for college students. And so they go and meet all the way up to the president with the president. This actually happened in real life. They met with President Dr. Larry Summers, the president of Harvard back then. And President Summers is going to say, I don't see this as an honor code violation. So this is a fascinating question of how do you interpret rules, law, honor codes, moral codes. How do you interpret the meaning of these rules? And so that is one of the reasons why we have courts, so we'll be that's why I have the honor code there, because that is going to be open up to interpretation. Did Zuckerberg violate the honor code when he, posted pictures of students without their consent? Why was that a violation of the honor code? Whereas stealing the Winklevoss idea for their Harvard Connection website was not a violation of the honor. Look at that, because one of the basic principles of our legal system is you have to treat similar cases alike. You have to, it doesn't matter, in theory, it doesn't matter how powerful, rich, or how poor you are, everybody has to be treated the same. The law has to apply equally to everybody. So this is a really cool stuff. So we'll take a look at that in this class as well. The next part, we're about halfway through the syllabus. This is class materials. Oh, by the way, this is the original Facebook homepage that students at Harvard College saw when Zuckerberg launched the Facebook 19 years ago on February 4th, 2004. So we're about to celebrate that anniversary, that 19-year anniversary of Zuckerberg changing the world for the better or for the worse. I think strong arguments can be made on both sides, but this is what his website looked like. And guess what? There's a lot of valuable intellectual property in that. We'll be taking a look at that website and the allegation that he stole the idea for the website when we do the module on the law of ideas. But here, I just want to share with you, all you need for this is, I think most of the class, based on the information I got from the bookstore, took advantage of the first day program and got the textbook via, I made it super cheap. There's no access code. It's just the textbook. We're going to go old school here. I'll just give you reading assignments, and everything here in the class is open book. Also, if you missed the deadline, it's last Sunday, a couple days ago to get the deal, guess what? I have now put 9 copies. I put 4 additional copies of the textbook in the library reserve, there on the main campus. So, you can check out the book for free and take it for as little or as much time as you need. I will be talking about, because the social network got the most votes, I'm going to encourage you, to watch the social network. It used to be on Netflix. Unfortunately, I think it's the only way I know of getting it is on Amazon, Prime. And, there may be other ways of getting the social network, but I do encourage you to watch that movie so you'll understand all the things that I'll be talking about in each of these modules. You don't need to watch, if you haven't, you don't need to watch Tiger King. You don't need to watch Oliver Stone's JFK. That's a 3-hour movie, because those did not, those came in second and third. And then finally, I just put in the internet because with this new format, you need internet access to do all the assignments. You don't need a textbook code. You don't need access codes, but you do need, all my assignments will be on Canvas, on web courses. So you're going to need internet, in order to complete and get all your full credit, including this, the class surveys that I'll be doing to take attendance, which takes me actually to the next page, which are the assignments in the course. Here, by the way, I have 3 frames from the famous Zapruder film that Abraham Zapruder took on his home movie projector when he went to see President Kennedy visit Dallas on the fateful day of November 22nd, 1963. So this is, again, we'll be taking a look at this fascinating issue of ownership. Who owns, when you take a movie on your camera, or a selfie or a picture on your camera, um, of a third party, for example, who owns that? So we'll be taking a look at that, because that has this film ended up being a very valuable piece of intellectual property. All right. So here, the way the class is designed is for attendance for the 5 labs. It's in-class opinion surveys. So, for those of you who prefer in person, I'll do those surveys in person, and then I'll use the results of the survey to share with you the main idea of law and ethics that relate to that module. If you do prefer the Zoom option every other Tuesday, then we'll do that via online. That'll be worth 1/3 of your grade. Those will add up to 240 points altogether. By the way, each module will have anywhere between 2 to 4 quizzes and discussion posts. I'm rewriting all the quizzes and rewriting all the discussion posts for reasons I'll explain later. Those will add up to 1/3 of your grade. So every time I open up a new module, which will be, every other Monday, I will give you, between 2 to 4 assignments. They will be open book, no time limit. And you'll have 2 weeks to complete the assignments, as long as the module is open. Each module will be open for a 2-week period. So you'll see there'll be a regularity in how the class is structured. Finally, at the because there was a landslide, an overwhelming majority of the students did prefer the take-home project versus the final exam, the traditional final exam. So I'll go ahead and give the 5-page final project. What the final project is, I'll tell you right now. I'm not going to post it until the week before spring break, but you will have until the last day of the semester, April 24th. And I believe spring break is going to be Monday, March 13th. So the week of March 6th, I'll post the module for the final project, give you all the guidelines, and then you'll have the entire second half of the semester to complete your 5-page project. What it is, I can tell you right now, without going into all the details. All I want you to do is think about, what do you want to do after you graduate? Do you want to start your own company? Do you want to work at a company? Or do you want to do something nonprofit, maybe philanthropy, or effective altruism, or human rights, or whatever? You know what I mean? So what it is you want to do after college, and then you'll pick a company, you'll pick a nonprofit, you'll pick a startup if you want to do your own thing, and then you'll answer a series of questions that I have based on the modules that are in the class. So it'll be completely transparent and straightforward. All you'll be doing is applying what you've learned in my labs to the company that you've chosen. And the idea is, you have to start thinking about, what do you want to do, with your degree, and by researching the company, your dream job, your dream company, that you can help leverage that either before or after you graduate to get the interview. And then if you go to the interview, you now have all this knowledge about the company that you can just, share with the person interviewing you, and you can distinguish yourself, get to the one, as Dean Jarley would say, boom, and realize, achieve your own personal career goals. So that's the idea of the final project. It's more you, not just that you apply what you learn in my class, but you apply it to something that you care about, to what you want to do when you graduate. So I'll let you pick any company in the world. It could be in Florida, it can be the People's Republic of China, it can be anywhere in the world. It can be in the state of Colorado, it can be in my home state of California, it can be in Latin America, it could be anywhere in the world, Europe, Africa, Asia, anywhere in the world, any business, sports, entertainment, commerce, retail, distribution, any business, internet, crypto, any business, or whatever idea you may have for a business, or even a nonprofit concept. All right, so and all that will be worth 1/3. Notice that leaves 1% of your grade. That is your academic activity. Your academic activity that you completed last week, the last part of which is still open for this week. The short discussion post where you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about the non-compliance strategy when a business decides to actually break the law. That's your 1% of your grade is the academic activity. So that's what I use to, that's how you get your grade rounded up. Did you do the academic activity? Boom. Then I have some discretion there. It's 1% of your grade. And sometimes that 1% can make all the difference. So I did that on purpose so that, I want to reward people who did do the academic activity. Then I can have some flexibility and discretion at the end of the semester. All right. I think the next page here, this is just for those of you who are transfer, by the way, this is the official movie poster for the network. This is the famous hackathon scene, one of my favorite scenes in the movie. But this, in case you just, you're new to the College of Business, we don't have minus grades. So what I've done here is given you the College of Business grade scale translated into the point structure of this class. Everything is worth, notice it's 240 times 3. I add that 1%, that academic activity, to give you, as that rounding up. By the way, those of you who added the course on Thursday or Friday, and I know it takes a day or two before you can actually your web courses pops up. The academic activity is still open. It's still open. You can complete it at any time as long as you get it done by April 24th, the last day of the semester. I'm going to keep it open. I want everybody to complete that academic activity. All right. Finally, I have what I call it, etc. All the boilerplate. I did create this little Tiger King collage. I'm a huge Tiger King fan. I thought this was one of the most fascinating, original, craziest documentaries I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? It's just a colorful cast of characters, but I especially like, how it forces us to think about our obligations to animals, to the animal kingdom and to our fellow, creatures, So like I say, when I talk about corporate governance, when I talk about ethics, I'll look about, actually, when I talk about the common law, I'll show you how some of the most famous cases in the common law involve, wild and domestic animals. So we'll take a look at that later. But here, basically, the key thing here is, I'm pretty strict about, quote unquote, cheating or academic integrity. I just like, I'm like Hemingway. I'm going to use a $5 word, not a $10 word, So cheating is basically, any of these third-party websites. And of course, now there's ChatGPT, which can write essays for you. So I'm rewriting all of the assignments. I'm rewriting all of the assignments because, so I can be able to detect if somebody is using artificial intelligence, in order to complete the assignments or any of these third-party websites, which my TAs do monitor. We always request if you're going to cheat, basically don't use your email, your Knight's email, because my TAs and I do request the email. Anybody who's registered in this course, we ask the dean to send a letter out, and we we double check everything because it's not fair to the people who do the work. That's the only reason why I do that. You know what I mean? Because I don't want, somebody who does the work earns the grade, it's basically not fair to them. So the email policy, we do have I have 5 sections. I think last I checked, it was 843 students. So yeah, it can take a day or two for me to respond to emails. I generally personally respond, believe it or not, to each of my emails. I will have my TAs assist me from time to time when I'm traveling or, I have a deadline of some sort, you know what I mean? But I generally do respond to all the emails. I haven't responded to the ones I got over the weekend but I will do so after class. I have one more class after this, and then I'll do so late tonight. One other thing I want to point out, although I am a licensed attorney, in addition to a law professor, I'm not licensed in the state of Florida. So I'm not to provide legal advice to any of my students. Also as your professor, I'm also just not authorized to, enter into any, even if it's pro bono, for free. I'm not allowed to enter into any relationship, of any nature with any of my students aside from the teacher professor. So I want to throw it out there. Shout out to the student Office of Student Legal Services in the Student Union. I've sent out the email. If you do have a legal issue, there is a full service law firm on the third floor of the Student Union that provides you free legal representation and free legal advice from attorneys who are licensed, vetted by UCF, and licensed to practice here in the state of Florida. So I just want to throw that out there, because I know many of you during the course of the semester may have a legal issue. You have a landlord-tenant, maybe a dispute. I've had this between, a boyfriend and girlfriend over a pet, those kind of things, car accidents, those kind of things, I want to throw it out there. Or even, business propositions, I want to throw it out there. That my hands are tied as long as you're in the class, as long as you're my student. And also because I'm not licensed to practice in Florida, I would jeopardize my good standing in my other jurisdictions where I am licensed to practice law. Again, because of the size of the course, we're pretty strict on makeups, but you'll see that, no makeups, but each module, that's why you want to check the homepage every Monday, because, every other Monday, I'll post a new module. That module will be open for 2 weeks. That module will correspond to the lab, and that module will have a few open book assignments, at least one quiz and one short discussion post, one paragraph type of thing. Up to, 2 quizzes and 2 discussion posts, but no more than that. And you always have 2 weeks open book to complete all the assignments. The idea is just so you can apply what you've learned. And instead of me giving you a midterm and stressing everybody out, I'd rather just give you smaller open book assignments in each module so you can really enjoy and learn, more likely to learn the material, and then you'll be able to apply it to the final project, when I post it before spring break. I do have the student with disabilities. For example, I'm recording this class to have a caption available for those students who need captioning. Whatever disability you have, you let me know and we'll figure something out. Now, that said, all my assignments, they're all take home, they're all through web courses, there's no time limit, and they're all open book. So I'm just basically going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt here, you know what I mean? So I don't have to pick and choose whose disability is, I'm not a doctor, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just going to keep it easy for everybody. This is just an intro course. Finally, now that we're done introducing the syllabus, that's the end. I'll go ahead and open up to questions and answers. Let me just go into the chat. You can either unmute yourself. Let me end the screen share, or I'll just go through the chat and answer everybody's concerns via the chat. Lots of hellos. So hello to everybody. And let's see here. Oh, good. The sound. Hopefully the sound is working. Let me see here. Hopefully my sound is working now. I am recording and I do have the captioning. Let's see. We did not get disconnected. Yeah, the music, by the way, that is this Atticus project that they did the theme song for all the music for the Social Network. And I have to say that ominous music is really foreboding because, Facebook has become something of, some people allege it's a threat to democracy. Some people allege that Facebook is a threat to people's mental health as well. Some people allege, and I would say with good reason, that Facebook is a threat to our privacy. So, that ominous music, like when Zuckerberg, when he created the Facebook, back in, 19 years ago on February 2004, did he make the world a better place or did he make it a worse place? And how do we decide whether a business, is meeting its ethical obligations, So what I love about the movie, it's a very dramatic way of making real all of the legal and ethical issues we're going to be talking about in this class. So I will, in each of the modules, keep going back to the social network and show you how real life events that are depicted in that movie, translate into, law and ethics. Yeah, really good music. Let's see here. Okay, some people are having trouble with the sound. So it might have been that, it was a YouTube video. So it is kind of a, just an instrumental. All right, here we go. Some people just had some technical issues on their end as well. Yeah, so the modules, I only open module A because I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want everybody just to, also try to just finish the class and be done with it. So I'll open up a new module for each of the new labs, So every time we have, for orientation, it's module A, So that's all you have to worry about for these 2 weeks, ending this week. Next week, I'll open up module B, which will be for lab number 1 and successively. Every other week, I'll open up a new module, 1 module per class. And the module will be simple. There'll be no more than 10 or 12, I may give you some supplementary. Again, all of this is just recommended reading. Like if I mention a Harvard Crimson article, I'll include the actual article in the module. If I talk about like a lawsuit, I'll include the actual legal document, so that you can look it up yourself. Don't just take my word for it. So anytime I mention something in my lab, I'll always include the actual original material, the primary source, if you will, the artifact in that module. So just, if you want to explore further, plus the short assignments that I have for each module. GroupMe, I don't know. I have a vague idea what that is. I'm assuming, I'll ask my teaching assistants. I'm assuming that's fine as long as you're working together, you know what I mean? I gotta take a look at that, maybe add that to the syllabus, because that sounds like it's kind of like a WhatsApp perhaps, where you can, I don't mind you working together, as long as you're not using third-party websites or artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, GPT-3, which is a pretty sophisticated artificial intelligence algorithm. So for now that's fine. For now that's fine. I got to do some further research on that. But the common law rule is, if it's not prohibited, it's perfectly legal. So we'll just follow the common law. Yes, Zoom will count as your attendance. What I have my teaching assistants right now, they're if you go to the bottom, I don't know if because I'm the host, but if you go to the bottom, you can see who the participants are. So they're just taking attendance. But for our future in-person labs or Zoom labs, if you prefer the Zoom option, the survey, each class will have a survey that will be your attendance point. So I'll just do the survey at the beginning of class, and then go over the survey results during the class, and that will be the attendance and participation points. All right. Yeah, you can attend any section, complete flexibility. Now, be careful. Not every professor, that's not, I'm just doing that because I just want to be flexible. But my understanding is I don't think very few other professors are being flexible on, normally you have to attend the section that you enrolled in. In this class, however, it's a law class, you know what I mean? You can attend any section you want. I just want to make sure that you attend and that you don't lose points just because you weren't able to attend your particular section. So there will be complete flexibility in terms of which section you prefer. So any class section. Zoom does count as attendance, so I'm going to be flexible. Half the class voted for Zoom. So I will have a Zoom option, and I will update that page 3 of the syllabus to give you a more complete schedule with the in-person and the Zoom. So you pick the modality you prefer. You do have to attend one way or the other, because attendance is required with this new modality, the so-called real, but I will be flexible in terms of which modality you prefer, because the class was pretty much evenly divided and we have a public health emergency, at the national level. Yes, exactly. You can choose in person or online. Attendance is taken via the surveys. Here, though, we're just doing it the old-fashioned way. Good. A lot of thank yous. For the book, just go to course materials. I'm going to write to the publisher and the bookstore for them to extend the first day. You know what I mean? If they can extend it because it fell on a holiday weekend, so go on the, I'll show you right now. Let me do a quick screen share. I'll show you the homepage of the course. And let me just close out the syllabus. And if you just go to course materials, that's where you go. That's where you go for, let's see if it's still active. If not, I will email the bookstore as well as the publisher. Let's see if it pops up. But again, if for any reason you miss the deal or they're strict on it with us, I'll have copies of the book, 9 copies available at the Library Reserve for free. So it looks like it's still good. Let me click on it. This is the professor version. So let's see if it's still what does it say here? I gotta move this toolbar. Sorry. Authorize. Oh, so it looks like, I don't know if it's doing it because I'm the professor, but it looks like it's still active. But I'm gonna write to them for them to give us to the end of the week. So just so that people who do want to get their own copy of the book, they can do so at the reduced rate. So I will promise I will do that. But now you just go to course materials. ChatGPT, yeah, I heard about it too for the first time. ChatGPT, I will tell you, ChatGPT is pretty good. But if, on my end, if you ask the question in a certain way, it'll become obvious when ChatGPT is just BSing. ChatGPT is good, but it's not yet perfect. Eventually, ChatGPT will become indistinguishable from a human. It'll pass the Turing test, But right now, ChatGPT is pretty good. It's about, I would say it's about like, 66% probability it'll give you a pretty good answer. But there's a 1/3 probability it's going to give you junk. And, it all depends on how the question is formulated. So I'm rewriting all my questions, so that I can be able to more easily detect, any use of ChatGPT. But it's kind of fascinating because, could ChatGPT, a more advanced version, could it, resolve cases, for example, resolve legal disputes, or at least provide legal advice? That's a really, so this is a whole new world. And we'll be taking a look at ChatGPT because it's going to raise a whole bunch of novel legal issues as well, as to like who owns the content, when you use ChatGPT. I'll put a link, by the way. You should play around with it. It's to me, I think it's the most revolutionary algorithm, since social media is pretty basic. It's not really that sophisticated. But compared to something like ChatGPT, ChatGPT is a very sophisticated algorithm. So let's see here. Oh yeah, good. So this is pretty much how different is the class lab from the Zoom lab? It's pretty much the same, because in both in person and Zoom, what I do is I begin by giving the students a survey. Everybody has about, it's like the one we did last week for the academic activity, 5 to 10 questions, just your opinion. You get full credit, whatever your answer is. And then I use the remaining time of our lab, whether it's Zoom or in person, to give you a mini lecture where I explain what the right answers are and why those are the right answers. And then I design my survey questions in a particular order so that it'll flow as if it were a lecture, so you'll end up learning what you do as had it been a regular class. Yes, I will always post the Zoom links. Yes, absolutely. On the and I'll, what I'll do is once we have the schedule, I'll just post all the links early, but I'll always post them on that homepage. That first day of the week, I'll just post the Zoom link. If we have any Zooms that week, that they will be optional. I'll post them on the homepage, just like I did today. Absolutely. Yes. All right. So the bottom line here is you're just going to be flexible. I want you to enjoy the course and just be exposed to law and ethics and how they interact with business. ultimately business is about making decisions, right? And what we'll see is that when you make decisions, there could be sometimes legal and moral consequences of the decisions we make. And so that's what we're going to be looking at. But, because business law, because business basically affects every single area of the law, what I've decided to do is basically focus on these 5 discrete topics. And to summarize then and conclude, the main sources of law, lab number 1, the common law tradition, property, torts, and contracts, lab number 2, the law of ideas or intellectual property, which is if you want to become rich, I don't mean wealthy, but I mean rich, you have to have new ideas and you have to be able to own those ideas. So that's lab number 3. Lab number 4 will be civil and criminal cases. What do they have in common? And why is it that the very few cases, whether they're criminal or civil, go in front of a jury? Because that's, the jury is one of the greatest innovations in the legal history. And yet it's used so infrequently in the real world because very few cases end up ever going to a jury. Of all of those, not thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of all the millions of lawsuits, very few ever get to a jury. And then finally, our last module will be on corporate governance. And those are basically the different models of business ethics. What are the ethical obligations, if any, a business has to the wider world or to society? And we'll look at the different points of view there. Wonderful. It looks like I've got all the questions then there. Thank you everybody then for your attention. Yeah, jury duty. We have a comment here in the chat. Yeah, that actually happened to me. The last time I was called for jury duty, I actually got to go into, right to the courtroom, and then the parties settled out of court, and so that's actually very, very common. And we'll see why. We'll learn why in this class. Most business law classes, professor will waste your time, teaching you all the ins and outs of a jury trial and an appeal. But less than 2% of all cases ever get to a jury. So I'm going to spend time on the 98% of the cases to explain. Even the Mark Zuckerberg, even Joe Exotic, who hates Carol Baskin, even Joe Exotic settled his trademark infringement lawsuit out of court. That gives you some idea, that there is something going on with the legal system. And so we'll take a look at that in this course. Wonderful. Thank you all for your attention. We went a little bit over than I had expected, but thank you for your attention. I'll see everybody either in person or in Zoom in a couple of weeks when we open up the next module. God bless and charge on. I will close up because I do have one more section and I ran out of water. So I need to go get my water and check on my dog. I don't know where she is. Bye-bye.